If AI agents can act, your old controls are already absolute. Autonomous agents won't fail. First, your governance will. In the next 45 to 50 minutes, you will get tried agent governance model, a control checklist per tier, and a 30-60 day rollout plan that leaders can defend with evidence. In India, rapid GenAI adoption across BFSI enterprises means governance gaps can run into compliance, fraud, and brand trust damage at speed. Global leaders report agents are scaling faster than guardrails, forcing a shift from AI experiments to AI operating systems. Before we dive into the topic, let's have a small video about power of knowing and then dive into the topic. Welcome to Power of Knowing Forums, the Permanent Conclave, a weekly podcast series by Power of Knowing. Let's welcome our guest, Mr. Mahesh Tallam, a CTO, a CISO, an investment banker, a cybersecurity and GRC leader to the discussion and dive into the topic. Sir, good evening. Welcome to our podcast, sir. How are you today?
Good evening, Prem. I'm doing very well. How are you?
Good, sir. Sir,
Yeah.
as it's been a very short time that we had around 2 3 months, I think the audience still know you as you. I will not take your time on the introduction, but let's dive into the topic. What must change in governance when AI moves from answers to actions?
Yeah. So one of the most important thing we have to bear in mind is we have been using it as Gen AI, right? It's nice to listen to queries being answered by GPTs and so on. When you look at AI acting, that's when governance kicks in. That's an inflection point where enterprises are having challenge to govern. How do we monitor and so on? So that is where an important part of how do you govern the AI action is most important. One of the key aspect is accountability. Who and what role does an agent play, and who's liable, who's accountable? You can't, if an agent takes an action, and who owns it? It has to be a human. It should not become a government governance debt, right? So the gap between what agents can do and what organizations can explain is something very key. And it is very important that a particular human is mapped with an agent and vice versa. As we go forward, I think we will answer some of these key challenges. If you look at the BFSI sector in India, or in a lot of CX space, there are a lot of agents deployed at the first point of contact, and one failure can create a reputational damage. So it is very important to ensure there is a proper governance. It could be a voice agent or it could be a conversational agent. And very important aspect is, how do you discover, how do you ensure that any kind of deviation is identified and addressed fast? It is like incident management. Similarly, you need to have an governance response system whenever you find an agent breaching, so immediately you should take action. So in short, the moment AI can act, the governance stops being policy, right? It becomes a part of your infrastructure. So that's how I would look at it, Prem.
Thank you for that, sir. Sir, what breaks first in the enterprise? Accountability, approvals, or audit trails?
I think accountability is something that starts breaking. The reason being that nobody is well prepared. If you see, everyone is building agents, and who's owning it up, right? Whether the IT team owns it, or the product team owns it, or the functional team owns it. So ultimately, looks like there is a issue in terms of clear definition. That's where the components start breaking, and owners start shifting. I'm a citizen developer, I'm not a technical guy, so on and so forth. So it is always good to avoid these kind of breakages. You clearly define who's the owner, who's the contributor, who is the enabler. So those kind of things are very important in this AI governance frame.
Got it, sir. I think what we are saying is the accountability is the first thing that has to be looked at. And when you everybody builds agents, who owns the risk is the first point. How is it managed? That's the second point. And who takes the ownership of when it goes rogue or it fails is what I think is important. What are the minimum non-negotiable before any agent tool gets an access?
Non-negotiable things are very simple. You have to define the level of autonomy. How much are you going to enable the agent to access? For example, if you're deploying an agent as a first point of contact, what is the level that you want to ensure that the agent is in within the guardrails? So which means he's supposed to ensure that these are the governance, ethical and responsible usage of the response that is being undertaken, and also ensure that within the policy framework that is decided, the access is accordingly configured. uh, these are the minimum thing. As we go forward, we'll talk about it, because humans are governed by an active directory or an IAM, and so are services. But what about agents? The
Hmm.
answer lies in that frame.
True, sir. We don't see that ownership clearly demarked is what I'm getting as a pointer at this moment. What is your single best indicator that orgs is scaling agents too early?
One of the indicator is clearly the mess that gets developed in terms of the outcomes, especially when you are looking at deployments, and immediately you will start seeing chaos all around if you're not governing them properly. uh, Hallucination is one simple thing. If you're not governing the agents properly, they can hallucinate. Maybe you can take care of it in development side, but if it once it hallucinates, it goes beyond its role and starts behaving erratic. And the earliest signal that I think an agent can do is to demonstrate its behavior. Either it will not perform as per the prescribed guidelines, or it will deviate, or it will give you very obvious response that you are able to detect and ensure that doesn't serve the business purpose. So today, if you see, the indicator is inability of the enterprises to achieve the outcome. Reason being, one is they are not clear with what they want, and they expect the agent to perform. And on top of it, governance layer is completely missed. So to summarize, the outcomes of the agent itself will be a clear leading indicator in terms of whether it is achieving the business purpose or not.
Got it, sir. Sir, I think what we are saying, guardrails, lagging scale, signal that translate into governance obligations, right?
Yeah.
And you spoke about also saying that evidence, ownership, and traceability, because traceability is more important when we start deploying the agent. I think one metric we can ask, example, what is the percentage of privilege actions get agreed, number of policy expectations from maybe once a week, or this is what we can look at. This is what I understand. Now, coming to our, I think what we are saying is autonomy without evidence becomes enterprise scale chaos, is what we are saying. Now,
Hmm.
what is the autonomy? So, governance is proportionally not one size fits all, right?
Yeah.
How do you tire autonomy to that pointer, sir?
Very good question, Prem. Today, everyone faces this challenge, right? So, can I give an agent to do transactions on behalf of a finance function or accounting function? The answer is no. We are not yet mature. We are yet to build that level of autonomy, confidence, I would say. And we have to go stage by stage to see which functions that can be de-risked and routine, mundane, where the risks are clearly low and medium. Decision making is very crystal clear. They can be given an autonomy. Those agents can be given an autonomy. You can't create an robotic army and say that I'll give autonomy to everyone. I think we are not there yet.
Not there yet.
Yes, you can possibly create a fleet of agents who are frontline support, or a fleet of analysts who are handling L0, L1 kind of thing, because there you have a clear guardrails defined. But autonomy depth is something that I would suggest that we should not enable it right now. Take it step by step, phase wise. For example, in a loan approval process of a bank, you can possibly give a due diligence responsibility to an agent to do the work for you, and you can correlate as well. And then the decision of approving the credit facility should be human induced, that is human in the loop should be used. That's how I look at it. So in short, tearing it, in a mechanism that splits the entire autonomy into stages. And before you deploy, you see what is within the ethos of the organization, because it changes from one to the other. A manufacturing organization will be a lot more conservative compared to a fintech startup. So there is no one rule about autonomy. It has to be on a situation and case to case basis that we take a call.
No, with that, which tires do you recommend, sir? Observe, advise, act, approval, or autonomous?
I think it should that's what I conveyed earlier. So the tiers should be going through these stages, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
You can't straight away jump to fully autonomous without observing, can we? We can't. So we should observe. We should look, give a feedback to see what the agents are performing, and then the next stage would be to act with approvals, right? So as I gave an example of loan processing, and once it reaches a mature stage, maybe you can have a fully autonomous system. Example of fully autonomous is today, when you go for this online shopping, either with Blinkit or Zepto or Big Basket, any of them, when you get a faulty product delivered, if it is within 50 rupees, I don't think any human intervention is required. The agent only approves and gives the money back to you.
Yeah.
And if you bought a vegetable, you are refunded immediately. Just upload the pic and so on. So that is a fully autonomous system where you are empowering. Can we give the same thing to a payroll kind of agent processing? I don't think so. So
Right.
it has to go through these phases. Once comfortable, that's when we can do it.
What you are saying is you should still look at the observability, but
Yeah.
where it is getting more autonomous is when the ticket size is small, the agents can take action.
Yeah.
When the ticket size goes critical, and if there is a defect that is there and certain survey has to be done, I think then the agent should be having a human in the loop, is what you are saying. Act with an
Absolutely.
approval and not go into the autonomous thing. For
Yeah.
each tire, what changes in permission, monitoring, and sign off, sir?
For each stage, as I said, there has to be a defined governance rules, right? So which clearly says at this stage this is what you're supposed to do, and so on. And that is where it'll make a difference. Uh, to illustrate, an agent has to be firstly going through an IAM, like human, like application or a service. It has to be governed through your identity access management. That's the first level. Second is on its behavior. It is expected to act on certain guardrails. There are monitorability factors that we need to keep in mind, and whenever there is a deviation, there has to be flags that is to be raised. Third is continuous learning process, right? So that learning process empowers a higher amount of autonomy, resulting into full autonomy at the ultimate stage. So, unless these are clearly defined, going back to your previous question, what are the indicators of mess in a enterprise when somebody scales without a proper governance? This is what happens when you don't have a clear registration of agent within the IAM, when you don't have a proper guardrails which are defined. Then you will end up stamping on each other functions, each other workflows, each other's KRAs, KPI. So all that will happen. So going through a structured approach, defining stage by stage, each point, what is expected of an agent to be acted upon, and what decision making is there, what autonomy is defined. Those are the steps that we'll have to. So your SOP in our old terms is something that is required for each tier.
Coming to that point itself, when you spoke about SOPs, what is the clean gradation criteria to move a use case tied up to a tier?
Come again, Prem.
So what I want is, you said SOPs just now, right? So earlier SOPs were used to look at the call or how it is to be answered, right?
Mhm.
Now with this AI agents, what is the clean gradation criteria to move a use case up to a tier?
Okay, okay. So we covered that earlier, right? In terms of observability, in terms
Hmm.
of intervention, in terms of learning, and so on. So those are the steps that will enable you to move higher into the tier. Definitely, one should not go ahead and launch an agent just because 11 labs or cloud code or anybody gives it, right? So you need to
Yeah.
have a mechanism where slowly and steadily you increase it. Otherwise you'll end up having a accident. At the same time, you can't have a bureaucratic bottleneck to say that I will put this condition and so on. It has to be very agile. So the SOPs are to be customized to the current AI world, which means that you are specific. There is a learnability, there is a traceability, there's an auditability, there is a responsible and ethical behavior expected. All these are guardrails. Some of them may be a standard set of points or clauses that are put in, and the rest will be based on the type of agent it is. What is the level of depth it can decide upon from autonomy perspective? Accordingly, it can we can tier it.
So what we are saying also is, we should uh, say, what we should say is map the governance, emphasize access rights, autonomy pitfalls is what we want to look at.
Absolutely.
Also look at some of the gradation score examples. So what is that we had over the last 30 days as a stable logs? What was the policy violations that we had, right? Did we roll back? What is the rollback drills that we have done? So some of these things could help, is what I think. Over restriction also can push a shadow usage versus a under restricted causes also incidents. What is the balance rule that we are following to manage that, is what I think is what a tire agent then tire that to a risk is also what we should look at, is what I'm understanding. Now,
Yep.
identity is the new control, and how do we govern agents as the first class identities?
As I said, it's a blind spot today for most of us. We think that when we develop an agent, we can go ahead and deploy it, right? For anything that we have, it will take hardly, if you have a website, Prem, for you and I, if you
Mhm.
want to build an agent, it will take half an hour for us to build, or 15 minutes to build an agent and deploy it.
Yeah,
Now, imagine you are deploying something similar for an organization. Now, how are you even knowing that these agents exist?
yeah,
If you have a large footprint of an organization, and if you enable freedom of developing and deploying, it becomes a huge mammothic problem to a CTO's office or a CISO's office to say what is the way I should govern these. So the first thing is, humans today are governed and managed through IAM. Services are registered and managed through IAM.
Yeah.
Likewise, agents should also be into IAM. And these fall into gray zone, right? But essentially, we should map in that I am with a human. So
Mm.
initially, as I said, every agent action should be directly connected with a human accountability, and that is when a specific principle of how an action can be governed, how an action can be controlled. That is the first part. Without it, audit trail and all you will have, but again, you will not have any onus or accountability that is there. Now, what is changing in the identity is, the observability and monitoring capability, right? As you covered earlier, did the agent perform as per the required guardrails, as per the required business outcomes or not? What was the decision making criteria? How did it decide? So on and so forth. And whether any workflows that you use, whether you use na10 or similar products like that, whether they are adding latency or they're adding enablement or
Mm.
speed to deliver. So these are the use cases where the right enforcement point comes in. So that is where you have to actually think and make sure that the control plane of identity is properly understood. If you follow a structured method of having an IAM to govern the agent, and equivalent of GPOs that we have it for endpoint. Likewise, you can create a set of guardrails and push it. So that is the way I look at the control plane being managed. Prem.
As you rightly said, identity decides everything, right? So when we look at these agents, should agents be having a dedicated identities, or they should be operated via constrained delegation? So your take on it, sir, because we spoke about IAM, and
Hmm.
we were trying to tie up with an agent to a human thing. So how do we look at this point?
Yeah, it is. The answer is very delicate. For example, for a startup company, they would prefer to share a SaaS-based license because there's a budgetary constraint,
Mm.
right? So Claude may be used by one person for some time, another person for another time. Today,
Yeah.
you have password sharing mechanisms, and you can have an audit trail also.
Yeah.
At the same time, the my recommendation that I have is have one agent to be identified with one human, right? That is very important. One human can have multiple agents, but one agent should not have multiple human responsibilities or accountabilities, because that proves in brings in a lot of accountability challenges. So answer to your question, don't do constraint thing, because that's where it will kill the entire purpose of agentic. Yes, initially when you want to do something to test and so on, you build it, right? At the same time, get it under IAM and give it the level of autonomy required. So as I said, if you are in a retail industry where you have given an agent an autonomy to refund up to 100 rupees, 200 rupees, then be done with it, right? So monitorability is there. You can get flags if it acts weird, but otherwise, that much amount of load on the agents are reduced. So that's how I would look at it. Constrained limitations would actually serve the business other way. So you will have challenges with the business team.
I think it depends that the privileges are very important based on
Yes.
what the agent is going to do. Now, what does least privilege mean when agent change tools uh, dynamically?
The least privilege means that I am not going to empower that particular agent over and above what it is supposed to do. We have the policy of least privileges in our security by design.
Hmm.
So if I am a analyst, if I am a developer, if I am a CEO, there is a least privilege that we have clearly defined. The same thing holds good for an agent too, just that it is not humanistic, it is completely agentic, but it should be having the same level of governance. The definitions remain the same. The law of least privileges should prevail for a human, for a service or application, and for an agent. It remains the same.
Got it. So identity is one of the blind
Yep.
spots that we are having at the moment. Move from static IAM to dynamic IAM. I think put a policy based governance is what we want to talk about. Then one is if a creep delegation, example, drift alerts, token scopes, action allowance lists. So these are pointers that can be looked at. So that's the point that we want to look at. So what we are also saying, agents need identities, otherwise governance is under threat. So
Yeah.
we cannot look at who's doing what if that is not tied to the identity part. Now, how do we operationalize governance? It's audit ready and not just a policy or a PDF. Sir, how do we look at this?
Yeah. So before I answer that, one of the thing is also to monitor the behavior, right? So today we have humans or services that have clearly defined binary policies which act accordingly. Now agent can be weird, it can hallucinate or it can drift and so on.
Hmm,
So the behavioral based IAM is something that I want to leave a particular thing and then move to how do we operationalize the governance.
hmm,
Here, when you say operationalize, the question comes in various forums, right, Prem? Uh, AI is evolving every day; it's changing. We are looking at mythos coming in. What will happen to me? What will happen to my legacy application? What will happen to my new initiatives? So, I think the first thing I would say is don't. It is not a complex world as we think, right? Everything can be broken into simpler mechanisms. So, going through NIST AI RMF is or going through ISO 42001 ensures that you are basically at
okay.
least having the framework to ensure that your baseline is done. So where your access approvals, your decision making traces, your rollbacks, your sign offs, all these are visible. So it should make sure that it is not just a policy document. For example, when you look at your 27001 or PCI DSS, they are not policy documents alone. Unless you have controls, they will not be very effective. Likewise, you should have a proper KPIs defined, action gates defined, detectability on the violation, and so on when you implement these risk management frameworks on AI governance. And the trade off is basically organization over invest into saying that I should have a pakka documentation and they will lose investing into control. And that is where you will start looking at incidents cropping up and causing damage to the organization. So in short, governance, the journey should begin from establishing these frameworks. Go through a self-assessment checklist of 42001 or NIST AI RMF that will tell you. And before this, if you have a 27001, it is more than helpful. You will
Hmm.
know whether the delta achieving these is 30, 40% or 60%. You will be able to determine. That will ensure you kickstart your governance. After that, you can always advance further.
Got it, sir. So, what evidence should exist before go live? Inventory, risk management, approvals, logs, or rollback tests.
We have controls and clauses. All of these are required, right? So as per the clauses, whatever is essential to have in terms of monitorability, traceability, decision making capability, your fallback mechanisms, your rollback mechanisms, all these are very much required. And there has to be a risk register specifically for these AI systems. Otherwise, if we go by traditional risk register and end with it, it won't.
Suffice.
This will become an blind spot where we are asking people to walk in straight away.
What's your minimal monitoring stack, sir? Decision trees, tool call logs, exceptional tracking, or policy violations?
All of these, Prem, can I just do with some of these? Answer is no,
Okay.
because when you're putting an agent, you need
Hmm.
to uh,
Hmm.
have a basis of decision. and tool call. If you don't have logs, how do you know which
What
agent this thing and
did
so on?
what?
So policy violations are like incidents, right? So anomaly triggers, all these are nothing but AI incidents that are required to be minimally uh, monitored, detected, and addressed.
Sir, when we have a lot of AI agents, the boards also are curious about what is happening, right? So
Mhm.
now, what should the boards receive as a monthly governance dashboard, sir, from the way that we have deployed agents or the outcomes? What is the report that we should be showing it to the boards?
Yeah, good question. Great question, because we do that regularly to our board. We just finished 2 days back. We presented to them with three agents over the last 1 month. What we do is we have a, before we approve an agent, we have a tool that actually defines what an agent is supposed to do. What
Hmm.
are the governance principles? What is the expected outcomes? What are the resources required, timelines, and so on, right? Including the budgets, etc. So this has to be presented. Some of them you would have completed, some of them would be work in progress, some of them would be in enhancement. So one page document should contain exactly what value it bought. If an agent is deployed, what value has it bought? One is in terms of reducing the man hours. Second is in terms of enhancing more coverage. Third is also an alternative. Suppose you had built an application or a software using the traditional SDLC, what would have been the possible time and spend that you would have? Because all, some are tangible, some are intangible. So presenting a structured table on the agents, their expected outcomes, what have you achieved, and what has been the savings. This should be the minimum high level document that the board should get. And also, it should not be for one function, it should
Hmm.
cover all functions in the organization. Don't say I am IT, I will do. Give it to HR, give it to marketing, give it to sales, give it to finance, give it to risk. Everyone should have specific agents to be built and applied in their function.
So what we are also talking about is agile plus proof plus governance equals evidence system. So that's the point that we want. We are
Yes.
talking about 42,000 for management system thinking plus NIST AI RMF for risk functions. That's what you said. Uh, we should also ask for a dashboard example like KRIs, operational metrics,
Yeah.
some trade-offs with perfect documentation versus continuous monitoring. You said that because it's agents, we need to have continuous monitoring, which is very important and very crucial. And where do we spend the effort at the first point? Because again, agents, right? So
Yeah.
what we look at is also, as India is growing as an organization, the audit ready AI governance to avoid reactive compliance free drills, because fire drills, that is more importance that we should give, right? And one thing that is, if it is not logged, it is not happened, is what I think. When
Yeah.
you clearly say you are not having that log, then you cannot claim that it happened if you don't have a log. So what is your 30-60 day playbook to scale autonomous agents without future rollbacks? Can we look at that pointer from your point, sir?
Yeah, so the this I've experienced because I've experienced both sides, a
Mhm.
successful launch as well as failed rollback. When I look at it, the definitions mattered a lot initially when we went into this year back. We were more enthusiastic and started using Replit to just build agents, and then realized that it is like having a monster, and if
Hmm.
you don't have a control of that monster, it can go in any take you in any direction. Not that it will go, it can take you in any direction. So between I was pushing my team, look, it is you can do it quite fast. Why are we trying to take so much time? It is coding in real time. Vibe coding is fantastic, just do it fast and then let's be done with it. Then I realized that the guardrails, the governance, and all these are the most important. So in the 30 days, you need to have a proper checklist. For example, when we are developing an agent now, we have clear set of prompts that are baked into the entire process, where even citizen developers will ensure that the security aspects, the secure code audit aspects, The responsible use of AI aspect, the ethical use of AI aspects are baked in. So we give them those prompts and say, you develop your custom agents, but make sure that these are the prompts that are standardized and should be used. And also defining the blast radius, right? So how much can I look at being covered, and can I have a governance ready measurability that is ready? Can I have a judgment call within 30 days? What percentage of agent action should I limit to, right? Or should I open it up for anything? So this drill will help us to decide. So it comes as a maturity. So the answer is, the first 30 days will help you to, if you have gone through this process, it will help you to exactly make sure that the future agents built have a proper checklist, have a proper steps, have a proper milestones and metrics of measurement, and financial monitoring. Today companies are losing money left, right, and center because everyone is using tokens recklessly.
Yeah,
They do not know how to write the right prompts, and you're putting huge burnout costs on the data centers and GPUs that are supporting, purely because you're inefficient in your prompts. So all these are the ones which are very important in the first 30 days, Prem. I hope I've answered that question.
yeah, yeah. Sir, now looking at this prompts that you said, what are the first five steps you implement next week while we look at inventory, tiring, tool gateway, monitoring, or incident drills?
All all you don't your questions are so clear that I can't pick one. If I pick one, I'll fail.
Got it, sir. Now, also talking about what future operating model will win, because we are talking about agents again,
Yeah.
maybe 12 months, 20 months. What are those that you think should be winning, sir? Your take on it, sir.
See, what I feel is, people are talking today about SaaS versus having your own, building your own LLMs within the organization,
Organization, yeah.
right? So now, according to my analysis, because of confidentiality, I cannot show. I did it for my organization. For our spend, it doesn't justify that I should have my own LLM. I
Hmm.
can go on SaaS based licenses as long as I have monitorability, traceability, and so on.
Yeah.
Going forward, what I see is more of LLMs becoming affordable and cheaper for one to deploy in an enterprise. That's how I look at it. The second most important point is monitoring the token usage, whether
Yeah.
because whether you're using SaaS-based licenses plus tokens or APIs, or whether you're having your own LLMs, you still have to monitor the usage, right? So this is the second part where we will see a lot of accountability coming in from the CFO's office to say, why are you using so many millions of tokens? You're burning, etc., etc. Third, I would say that there's a maturity that is coming in, where people are trying to understand that agent is not like a James Bond who will do everything anything. You will require a huge amount of human journey together to guide in the building of an agent. And even when you build, you cannot scale without actually a human intervention. It is too costly, right? The way we say, shifting left in the traditional development cycle, likewise shifting left and taking care of security, taking care of governance and all these issues when you're developing an agent is going to be very important. Otherwise, the cost of not only breaches, the cost of something else also is so high that it will cost the organization a heavy impact. So these are all realizations that people are getting, and more and more I see that the type of mythos are going to become a norm in the next 6 months to 1 year. A massive deployment of capability, transformation of how we manage and deploy agents are going to see a huge change, and definitely work enablement will be phenomenal. And whoever is not learning AI, whoever is not deploying AI will be left back. There'll be last minute rush. So we should make sure that the company is proportionate to their domain, their scale, their customer ask, are focusing on AI to the required levels and use agentic AI capabilities with very strong governance, because we are also getting DPDPA in next 12 months in India. Even if you are a domestic oriented consumer company, you need to be compliant. So all these are very important. Yes, it is not tough. If you start with 42001 or NIST based RMF, that's the starting journey, and you can learn and evolve.
Sir, I with this I my questions are done. I have few audience questions which I want to take it up. I'm not able to bring up the chat here. I've read them out. What is your biggest blocker to an agent scale today? That's the first question that I have.
I would say two, capacity and capability, right? The availability of experienced AI engineers
Hmm.
and affordable cost of GPUs. These two are the biggest challenges, in short.
So the next question is, what level of autonomy are you comfortable with right now?
Human in the loop level, where I'm enabling them to decide, and final approval will be led by a human. Fully autonomous, as I said, on a case to case basis, where I clearly define whether it is 100 or 500 rupees. I will be okay if that is clearly defined. That's where full autonomy. Otherwise, I don't think full autonomy can be enabled. Nobody is ready yet.
What's one workflow you never allowed an agent to touch first?
Your payroll data, customer data,
Customer data, right?
billing data. So this is something that we are very careful and cautious. We don't.
Do we look at a customer, yeah, AI agent inventory today? It just can be yes or no. Are we looking at that way, sir?
Yes, yes, we are looking. I don't know about others. We are looking at it because we monitor and we are looking at it. But have we integrated with an IAM kind of thing? We are in the discovery process, but we do definitely have an inventory. We are. It is like, do you have an asset management feature? Yes, we are managing it through Excel.
Hmm.
We don't have a tool to do it, CMDB tool, but yes, we are trying to discover through Microsoft Business Premium whether we can do this.
What should your board ask first? ROI, risk, or proof?
ROI risk. I would say I would slightly differ here.
Hmm.
Uh, the board, if I am the board member, I will say assume certain governance risks and get me business revenue. Use agents to get me revenue. That's how I'll give you. Can I take a minute to elaborate?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
So, for example, today you're doing, any company would want qualified leads. There
Hmm.
are fleets of people who do leads, in-house desk and so on and so forth. Can I use their bandwidth for better qualification? Can I deploy agents to actually go and scrape and get qualified leads and then use their bandwidth to actually engage humanistically? That is what the boards are trying to do today.
Got it, sir. Hot seat prompt, decision under pressure. The you must launch agents in next step. What do you cut off? Feature speed, autonomy, or integration?
Autonomy.
Okay. Okay.
I'll give you an example. We had in the known circle. The website was not enabled with any conversational AI. How do customers engage, right? So
Hmm.
the very fact that agent has to be deployed, we said just give a fixed set of document of what the answers can be, and the remaining you can connect through workflow and so on. So the agent was deployed in 24 to 48 hours. No autonomy given.
Got it, sir. Sir, what matters in one line? It exposes real trade-offs and leadership priorities.
Uh, I want to understand it again.
What does it matter? Okay, if I have to take, if a agent exposes real trade-off or leadership priorities.
I think real trade-off, because automatically leadership will get aligned.
Okay. Sir, with this, we are done with the questions. I've taken some of the notes. I will read out the takeaways that I have taken as autonomous agents demand evidence grade governance, ownership, logging, approval, rollback, discipline is what you said. Your autonomy to avoid one size governance, observability, advice, act with approval and autonomy. We spoke on this point also when we started. Build governance as an AI measurable system, maybe ISO 42,000 mindset, align with risk functions, whether it is NIST, AI RMF, or any other practice. Winning operating model is a governance control plane, policy as code, continuous assurance, and measurable readiness. That's what I have as a takeaway, sir. Any final pointers that you want to tell the audience before we conclude the session, sir?
All I would say is make your hands dirty. At the same time, don't forget governance.
Yeah,
You can dirty your hands on your own laptop, isolated. Because I used Clawbot on my own isolated laptops, give it for a few users, but I did not use it in the enterprise network. The moment you're looking at your business, make sure that you're defining clear AI governance and deploying the agents. Third, before you deploy, plan it properly, define metrics, budget it properly. Fourth, ensure that you have the capacity and capability to visualize what does it take to maintain an agent. A lot of us deploy the agents, but we discover that we need a DB expert, we need those kind of
yeah.
skills, etc. So with these 4 points, I would like to leave a note with the audience to say agents are robots. It is like a jinn. It is
Yeah.
left to us how effectively we use. It is in our hands.
Sir, thank you for that, sir. The message is very clear, board clear. Autonomy is not a feature, it's a responsibility model.
Absolutely.
The organizations that will win will be the ones who can prove what an agent can do, what it did, and how it can be governed. That's the point that we want to look at. And with this, we would like to conclude our show. Thank you for joining us, sir. Thank you, audience, for joining us, and see you in our next episode. Thank you.
Thank you, Prem. Thank you, everyone on the other side. Wonderful talking to you all. Look forward to stay connected. Thank you, Prem.
Thank you, sir.